Arsenal mark their return to the Champions League in style with a 4-0 victory over PSV Eindhoven. We're going to be reacting to the game live from Emirates Stadium on this edition of the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast. Thanks for joining me.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're all good. Hope you're all well. Just want to apologize in advance for any background noise. I am still here at Emirates Stadium sitting in the press box, and I thought I'd do our reaction podcast now rather than make you guys wait until the morning, because I've got plenty of stuff that I need to get done before the evening is over. But yeah, this was too good a game not to jump on and comment on nice and swiftly. The Gunners running out 4-0 winners in this one against PSV Eindhoven. It was a really, really comfortable evening for Mikel Arteta's side, which is kind of what you want in terms of A, building confidence, but B, in terms of with the North London derby coming up at the weekend. I don't feel like Arsenal really massively exerted themselves. We were able to make changes in the second half as well, protect some of our key players. Zinchenko went off, someone that we always have concerns over when it comes to his fitness. Leandro Trossard, who made his mark again tonight, made way as well in the second half, as did, of course, Gabriel Jesus and Bukayo Saka, and even Declan Rice managed to get off towards the end of the game as well. So, yeah, a really, really good night all round. We're going to talk about the team selection because Mikel Arteta made a big call, I think, putting David Raya in between the sticks for this one. I have to say I expected and thought Aaron Ramsdale actually deserved to come back in to the 11 for this one. He didn't. So we'll get into that a little bit, and we'll talk about the performance. Remember, we'll bring you another show tomorrow once I've been able to watch the game back again. So we'll be able to break it down a little bit more tactically then. But let's start off then with the team selection. In fact, before we do the team chat, a big hello to everybody that is joining us, of course, in the live chat. Good to see so many of you hopping on straight after the game. It's always great to see the support and the love, and obviously your interaction is very, very valuable. Please, if you haven't done so already, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already as well, as we continue to crawl towards 30,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. If you're listening on audio, you know the drill by now. Leave us a review, all of the rest of it. Right, just looking out on the rain and wondering what a nightmare I'm going to have trying to get home in this. The thought of walking to one of the local train stations in this is putting me off leaving, I have to say. There's a good chance that I'm going to hop in an Uber tonight, I think, all the way home. But anyway, that's enough about that. Have you hit the like button yet? Let's have a quick look where we at in terms of likes. We've got nowhere near enough on the board considering how many of you are watching. But anyway, team selection. Big call from Mikel Arteta to pick David Raya ahead of Aaron Ramsdale. There was a lot of discussion in the lead up to this game off the back of Mikel Arteta picking Raya against Everton. Would he stick with the Spaniard, or would he bring Aaron Ramsdale back into the side, who obviously played such a big part in getting Arsenal back to this level, getting Arsenal back into the Champions League? He took the decision to go with Raya. I thought Raya had a fairly comfortable night. He had to do a few bits and pieces here and there, a few claims, a few comfortable routine saves, I would say. He had the ball at his feet plenty. He pushed up into sort of almost like a centre-back position really, really often as well. And I thought his distribution, as is pointed out by Oisin in the comments, was excellent. So he didn't put a foot wrong again. But again, it wasn't a game in which I thought he was massively tested. So I'm still, look, I'm not saying that I'm not sure about Raya or that the jury's out on him. I think he's a brilliant goalkeeper, and it's great to have both of them in our ranks, and the ability, of course, to make that change when we want, when one's in form. If they drop out of form, you've got the other one to come in. And obviously, you never know what can happen in football. You can easily lose a goalkeeper, or any player for that matter, for a long period of time, and find yourself in a spot of bother. So to be able to have both of them in our squad shows you that we're building a squad. It's not just the first 11 anymore. And when you look at some of the options we brought off from the bench later on in the game, you really get the impression that the depth that we've managed to build over the course of this summer and the last few transfer windows is really starting to come together now. I feel sorry for Aaron Ramsdale, though. I have to say that. I think he's been great for Arsenal since he's joined the club. He's made a few mistakes here and there, but what keeper wouldn't, playing the number of games that Aaron Ramsdale does? We've talked a lot before about his playing style, the style that Mikel Arteta demands, and the risks that brings. And so, yeah, some of those mistakes were going to be inevitable. And I'm sure if David Raya plays for the rest of the season, he will make a mistake at some point, because that's the nature of the role, as I keep saying, that Mikel Arteta is demanding his goalkeepers play. But I don't know. I really did think that Mikel would go, you know what, Aaron, you deserve this. You deserve to be the one in goal, and walking out with the team on our return to the Champions League. And he didn't do that. He shows a ruthless side to Mikel Arteta. I was having this conversation with somebody earlier, and I do believe that Mikel Arteta would have informed Aaron Ramsdale of this decision, I think, ahead of time. I know people say that, you want to keep that competition going. So what you do is you keep them both on their toes, you keep them both on edge, you keep them both guessing who's going to play, and that will elevate their levels in training and all the rest of it. But I really do think that at the start of David Raya coming in, now we weren't to know that he was going to play tonight, but I think Mikel Arteta would have probably sat Aaron Ramsdale down and said, look, I'm going to give this guy a run of games. But yeah, just looking at the pictures of Ramsdale sitting on the bench, it kind of broke my heart a little bit. But as I say, you can't fault David Raya. I thought he had an excellent game. There was another couple of changes that Mikel Arteta made from the side that beat Everton at the weekend. Kai Havertz came into the side for Fabio Vieira, and Gabriel Jesus came in for Eddie Nketiah. Listen, Jesus looked in tip-top form tonight. And on that basis, for me, he's got to start the North London derby. I mean, when they're both fit and firing, I don't think there's any competition. I think that Gabriel Jesus brings a whole nother dynamic and is a far more complete centre forward than Eddie Nketiah. That's not to knock Eddie or to criticise him. I think he's been brilliant, generally speaking, for Arsenal. But yeah, Gabriel Jesus for me now has to start at the weekend after that performance, because he was sublime tonight. He got on the score sheet. He was a constant nuisance to the PSV defence. He's still building up his fitness as well. He's been out for a long time last season, got himself back on track, and then suffered that injury at the start of this season. It was a recurrence of the problem that he had previously, or it was at least related. And he's got to build his fitness back up, and he's got to get himself back up into tip-top shape. And he's doing that gradually, and he did it tonight with a goal. That's consecutive goals in consecutive games, or goals in consecutive games, I should say, for Gabriel Jesus at Emirates Stadium. And you can't really ask for much more than that. So we started the game really, really well, I thought. I'm really comfortable in possession. It was clear very, very early on that PSV Eindhoven were going to come out and play us. They weren't here to sit back. They weren't here to soak up pressure or anything like that. They were literally here to make a go of it, to make a game of it. I'd spoken to Andy Brassel in the Group B preview show that we did, which I'm sure a lot of you have checked out. And one of the things he said was that Peter Bosz is a manager who will come and only play his way, and he won't try anything else. He won't do anything else. He won't be willing to concede on his principles or to compromise on his principles. And that was exactly what we saw tonight. Andy was spot on, because PSV came here. They tried to play an open and expansive game. They tried to use Noah Lang and Johan Bakayoko in the wide positions to pull Arsenal apart. De Jong was a bit of a statue up front for me. I thought he lacked that mobility that you kind of need to trouble Gabriel and Saliba, who are not only physical like De Jong, but have that mobility to eat up the ground in front of them. And any balls in behind, they're going to be favourites to those. So, yeah, I thought the defence had a reasonably easy night. But, yeah, we started the game well. Looked like we were on the front foot. It felt like the attack really clicked tonight. For the first time this season, you have to say. And Bukayo Saka gets his first Champions League goal on his first Champions League appearance. It took him just 8 minutes to find the back of the net. He pounced on a rebound off the back of a Martin Odegaard shot, and that set Arsenal on their way. Just around about 12 minutes later, Leandro Trossard, of course, got the second goal, and he must be watching Martin Odegaard in training. The way he sort of ran onto it on the edge of the box, obviously with his right foot rather than his left, as Odegaard would have, and he just found that bottom corner. It was a brilliant finish. We got the trademark celebration. And Leandro Trossard, whose confidence maybe took a bit of a kick-in at the end of last season, when people were talking about him not having scored for a period of time. And then he starts this season not playing week in, week out, not starting games. He gets his opportunity when Martinelli picked up that injury. And you have to say he's taken it with both hands so far, because he scored the winning goal at Everton and he scored the second goal for Arsenal today. Clearly, I think there's an intention to start him in the North London derby at the weekend. Otherwise, I don't think Mikel Arteta would have hooked him off. So maybe that's a little bit of a hint and a clue as to what we might see at the weekend. And then Trossard was involved in the third goal as well, just 18 minutes after he had netted. He clipped a lovely ball into Gabriel Jesus, who was inside the box, managed to bring it down and just rifled it into the top left-hand corner to give, of course, Arsenal a 3-goal lead. And he just looked so sharp, didn't he? Looked so sharp throughout, Gabriel Jesus. Glad he came off at the end so that we could save him a little bit, but he was brilliant. And look, half-time came and Arsenal had won the game, if we're being frank about it. You know, you always say that it's never over until it's over, and that you shouldn't get complacent and you can't afford to switch off, particularly at this level, at Champions League level. But Arsenal were in cruise control at halftime, and you got the feeling that the second half was going to be, I don't want to say a damp squib, because we got to see some of the substitutes come on and show what they can do. And you have to say Nelson, Smith Rowe, Vieira in particular looked really, really sharp. But it was always going to be a second half that was played in second gear from an Arsenal perspective. And then Martin Odegaard on 70 minutes pops up with the fourth goal. And what a strike that was. He's getting better and better at either coming onto the ball on the edge of the box and striking first time, or when he does receive the ball around about the D area, just sort of having one thing in mind, dropping the shoulder either left or right, creating that half a yard of space, and then finding those bottom corners. He's really added goals to his game last season, and he's continued to do that into this season. I think that's his third or fourth goal of the campaign off the top of my head so far, which is a good return for a midfield player. Look, lots of people saying in the comments that they enjoyed that tonight. Me too. I really, really, really enjoyed that. As I say, it was the first time this season I felt like Arsenal's attack was right at it. And I know that that's partly down to the way that PSV Eindhoven played, the fact they were quite open in certain areas, the fact that they were happy to try and take the game to us, not too concerned by the spaces that would leave him behind. But yeah, just a great night overall. A little bit about the mood and the atmosphere here, because that was great too. You know, I got here nice and early. I did a little piece on TV. So I had to be here nice and early. The rain had started, but it didn't dampen anybody's spirits. And obviously the occasion was a big one for us. You know, back in this competition for the first time in 6 years. 2016-17 was the last time that Arsenal played in Europe's premier competition. And the anticipation, the buzz around the place was great, even with the weather being as bad as it is and was. But yeah, I got here nice and early. I went into the club shop. I try and avoid that more often than not, because every time I go in there, I seem to spend whatever money I'm earning working, which is not a good look. So went in there was a DJ. They were playing the UEFA Champions League anthem and various other sort of tunes to get people going. The atmosphere was great. And then when I got into the stadium, you know, normally the sort of press get in maybe 2.5, 3 hours before kickoff. And everybody else starts to come in around about 2 hours before kickoff. Normally people trickle in slowly, but there were so many people in here at about 7:45, ready for the light show, ready for the Champions League anthem, ready for what was to come, which is a big, big night here at Emirates Stadium. And it's the perfect outcome, because not only did we get a 4-0 win over PSV, a side that I expect to rival us in the group, or be one of the closest rivals in the group. There was a draw between Sevilla and Lens as well, which obviously helps. It means we've got a 2-point cushion at the top of the group. And I don't feel like we exerted ourselves too much ahead of what's a massive, massive game on Sunday. I thought Arteta used his bench really, really well tonight, made changes when he needed to, in terms of protecting players, but also giving players minutes that needed them. Emile Smith-Rowe and Reece Nelson, for example, they really needed those minutes. Fabio Vieira has been on pretty frequently so far this season. Takahiro Tomiyasu's been on pretty frequently too. So I think Arteta had that in mind, you know, that there are certain players that need minutes, get them on in the Champions League, give them that bit of experience, etc., etc. So yeah, really, really great stuff. I'm really, really pleased with the team's performance tonight. Should we do some player ratings? I think we'll do some player ratings as well before we bid you a farewell. I am coming to you live from Emirates Stadium. That explains the background noise. For those of you that are listening on audio and can't see where I am, I'm sitting in the press box at the moment, just finishing up. I'm actually missing the press conference, but I figured I'd do this tonight instead, and I can catch up on the press conference a little bit later on. I don't think there's anything too interesting to ask Mikel Arteta. I think he will be asked, of course, about the decision to play David Raya instead of Aaron Ramsdale. But what kind of answer is he going to give? We all know what kind of answer Mikel Arteta is going to give. He doesn't feel the need to explain himself to anyone, and I don't think he's going to start doing that tonight. Get some questions in the live chat as well. What I'll do is I'll go through my player ratings, and then I'll take a load of your questions as well before I sign out. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're brand spanking new. We've got 150 odd likes on the board. No reason why we shouldn't have 300, because there's over 600 of you with me live right now, which is incredible. Thank you all so much for your support. I know people want to watch the TV coverage straight after a game, so to see so many of you here with me is incredible. Remember, if you're listening on audio, leave us a review, and if you want to support the podcast and support the work that I do, get access to our premium content. The next bit of which is dropping on Friday, which is going to be a Q&A with our members' questions, then please do check out the Another Slice proposition. The link is in the description below. Lots of you commenting about the headphones. We did mention this earlier on today. Listen, the headphones are going. Look, they're wrecked. They're finished. My new pair turned up today. I have to say, I don't really use these that often anymore. They're very much my spares in the bag for any emergencies or any issues. But I thought I'd pull them out tonight for this one. Their farewell to the Chronicles of a Gooder podcast comes in Arsenal's first game back in the UEFA Champions League. Right, anyway, let's do those player ratings. Let's bring up my little graphic. Where are we? Hold on a second. And we'll run through the starting 11 in terms of player ratings. Let's start off with David Raya, who, of course, started in between the sticks, his first Champions League appearance as well. I think David Raya was solid in everything he did without at any point having to be spectacular. So I'm going to give David Raya, I think, I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. I don't think you can give him more than that because he wasn't that busy. But also, you know, some people might look at 7 as a mediocre rating. I'd say a 6 is a mediocre rating. A 7 is just above that. As I say, I can't go any further because I don't think he had that much to do. Let's go to right back at Ben White. I'm going to give Ben White a 7.5, actually. When it says 75, it means 7.5. It doesn't allow me to put decimal points in this graphic. So Declan White, I almost said. Ben White gets a 7.5 for me for his performance. I thought defensively he was really good. Not always easy to contain that pairing of Serginho Dest and Noah Lang on that left-hand side. I thought he did it pretty well for the most part. Also got forward to good effect on occasions as well down the right-hand side. So White gets a 7.5 for me. I like this. Keep your ratings coming in the live chat alongside me. That's great to see. Moving into the right side of central defence, William Saliba. I'm going to give him an 8, actually. I thought he was fantastic. There were a couple of occasions where he sort of just stepped in and showed his dominance and stopped transitions and won the ball back in sort of higher up positions. He also carried it out brilliantly at times, stepped into midfield, and he just looked like the Rolls Royce of a centre-back that we all know he is. So William Saliba gets an 8 for me. Gabriel, I'm going to give him a 7, not because I thought he was bad. Same applies to kind of David Raya, basically, where he had a decent enough game, didn't have too much to do, but what he did do, thought he did well. Didn't really have to fight too much with De Jong because he had the beating of him across the ground. He had the beating of in one-on-one situations, and in terms of physicality, where we usually see De Jong like put himself about and try and gain advantages that way, he had no joy doing that against Gabriel. I'm going to give Zinchenko a 7 as well. Again, you know, not at his brilliant best, I didn't think, but he did what he had to do well and right and comfortably. And, you know, he is very much a positive for us in terms of the way that we progress the ball from defence into midfield, always looking to break the lines at every opportunity, but also stepping into midfield and supporting Declan Rice in those situations where he can become a bit isolated by the fact that he's playing with Havertz and Odegaard. Moving into midfield, Declan Rice, he's going to get an 8 for me in midfield. So dominant. His first performance in the first appearance in the Champions League. Obviously, he had success in the Europa Conference League last season with West Ham United, but that's a whole different ball game, isn't it? It's a whole different level. He's stepped up a level coming to Arsenal, and he stepped up another level by playing in the Champions League, and he looked just as dominant, just as in control, just as commanding. And again, I keep talking about that combination of Havertz and Odegaard as two attacking midfielders, if you like. And that is facilitated by Declan's mobility, by Declan's power, by Declan's reading of the game. The more I watch this guy play, the more I believe he is absolutely 100% worth the £100 million that we paid for him. Kai Havertz, this is probably going to be one that divides opinion. I'm going to give him a 7. I thought he was decent in the build-up. I thought he won the ball back a fair few times, worked quite hard. And I've looked at the statistics during the game to kind of back that claim up. Because I was like, are my eyes deceiving me? I would have liked to have seen a bit more from him in the final third. I would have liked to have seen him get a goal. I tweeted just after half-time that it would be brilliant if he could get on the goal score ring sheet and what that would do for his confidence. But listen, are we going to sit here and beat up Kai Havertz after what was an okay performance? It wasn't a great performance. It wasn't a special performance. But I thought he as Avon says in the chat, I think he grew into it. He really, really did. And I think M says Havertz did everything well, bar an assist or a goal. I agree with that. He is lacking in confidence, as Abdullah points out in the chat. I wouldn't give him a 6.5, but he is lacking in confidence. And that confidence is going to come when he has his moment. And you get the impression that that moment is not that far away. He's too good a player to not produce a moment in the near future. And, when the attack clicks like that, it doesn't really matter if Kai Havertz is still finding his way, still finding his feet, because we're not overly reliant on his outputs. And that's what you want. You want the team to function well. And that means that it's a safer environment for players that are coming in, gives them more time to adapt, more time to find their feet, and more time to essentially find their way in Mikel Arteta's side and in Mikel Arteta's system. The point I keep making in defense of Kai Havertz, and I've made it over and over again, is that for me, people need to realize that he's gone from playing as a centre forward for the past couple of years to now playing as a central midfielder. That's a very, very different role. And it takes time to change your mindset. There's times where, I look at him and I think, why aren't you busting a gut to get in the box? And then I think to myself, maybe he's that little bit reserved in terms of his forward movements because he's fearful of leaving spaces in behind. When you are not comfortable with a particular role and you're not sure about certain aspects, that will cause hesitation. And that therefore causes a delay in terms of getting involved in attacks when we're breaking and when we're on the transition. Also, though, I think because he holds such a high up position, I think he attracts the, I think he attracts the attention of defenders and attracts the attention of the opposition, which therefore creates space for other players as well. So he gets a 7 for me. It's not all bad with Kai Havertz. Martin Odegaard, I'm going to give him a 7.5. I didn't think it was his greatest performance tonight. He was good enough, as good as Martin Odegaard always is in terms of his base level of performance. But the goal for me was brilliant, and that's the extra half that I'm going to give him. Out on the left-hand side, Leandro Trossard, who started. I'm only doing the players that started the game, by the way. I'm going to give him an 8. A wonderful goal and a wonderful assist. I also thought he was brilliant outside of that as well on that left-hand side. He caused PSV all sorts of problems, some silky touches, some beautiful pick-outs, and as I mentioned, a brilliant goal. On the right-hand side, I'm going to give Saka a 7. Not bad, obviously, and obviously got his first goal in the Champions League, which is a big deal for Bukayo Saka, but not at his best again. But when others are, it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't cause us too much of a problem. But yeah, I'm delighted with the overall performance. Saka was a part of that, so I couldn't give him less than a 7. Lots of you saying that I should be giving Odegaard more. Do you know what? I'll up it. I'll up it to 8. I'll up it to 8, but I'm not going any further than that. And then at centre forward, Gabriel Jesus, who I'm also going to give an 8 because of how he was buzzing around up front, causing people problems, scored an excellent goal. The link-up play is brilliant with him in the team. I also think it makes Kai Havertz look better. I think it makes Trossard look better. I love Eddie Nketiah and what he's doing, but Jesus just really elevates the level for me. I really do believe that. Right, just going to go for a couple more minutes. So if you've got a question, get it in. I'll pick out a couple of those before I say goodbye. I know the stewards here as well are waiting to go home, and the sooner I vacate the press box, the sooner they can get off as well. So get your questions in. We'll take a couple. Nearly 800 of you with us live right now. Guys, please leave a like on the video. It really, really does help. Subscribe as well to the channel if you haven't done so already. Can we get to 500 likes? That would be amazing. Get involved. If you're listening on audio, leave us a review. You know the drill by now. Right, let's have a look then at some of your questions. Super chats. Is there super chats? I must have missed those. I think I've got one here that I can see. Sports Genius says, is Trossard better than Martinelli? I don't think he's better than Martinelli. I think he's different to Martinelli. I think he offers very different things. I think Martinelli's more direct, more pacey, and more of a threat in behind. I think Trossard's a little bit cuter, has a little bit more guile to his game. So they bring different things, in my opinion. What else have we got in the chat? Ivan says, who are you starting in goal at the weekend, Harry? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. If I had to guess now, I'd say it's Raya, because he's come into the team. He hasn't put a foot wrong. He's kept 2 clean sheets on the bounce, 1 away at Everton, 1 in the Champions League. So I'd imagine it's going to be David Raya. I wouldn't have a problem with Ramsdale coming back in, but I'd also be a little bit concerned about bringing him in back cold now, having missed a couple of games. So I guess I'm slightly leaning towards Raya at this point. Jean-René says, favourite player tonight. I'm going to go with Trossard. I thought he was superb. Lots of questions about the goalkeeper. We've addressed that already, so I'll skip those. But I see the Steward 593 getting restless, Harry. Yeah, probably. Probably he's hovering around. Louis Robson says, start Havertz on Sunday. I think he will. I think he will. I really, really do. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. It's going to be an interesting game. I wonder if there are going to be similarities on Sunday between that game and this game, in that our opposition are expected to come here and play. Will Ange Postecoglou be as naive, if you like, as Peter Bosz was tonight? I don't know. If he is, we'll have a field day, but I don't expect him to play in the exact same way. So we're going to have to wait and see. But Sunday's going to be a fascinating game. Obviously, we're going to preview that. I'm going to see if I can get Dan DeLuca on the podcast as well to get a Spurs perspective before that game. And yeah, all attention turns to that now. It really does. But Danny says, we have our Arsenal back. And make sure you check out the Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Danny is the head honcho of it. It's a brilliant show. One of my favorites. Do check it out. Go over there and subscribe. Danny's right. It does feel like we've got our Arsenal back. We're back in Europe's premier competition, back in the Champions League. We've got expectations in the Champions League as well, which is something that we haven't felt for a long time. A great start to the group, 3 points on the board. The other 2 sides in the group drawing as well, 1-1, which is a great result for us. Sevilla will be disappointed they didn't pick up all 3 points at home to Lens. I know Sevilla aren't in great shape, but in terms of the dynamic of this group, I think for them 3 points would have been pretty important. I just want to say thank you before I say goodbye to those of you that are tuned in. I've just looked, and over 5,000 of you have popped into the stream since we started it, which is incredible. Lots of love for the headphones. Farewell to these headphones. They've served me well. They were the headphones I recorded my first ever podcast with. And now look, I'm here at the Emirates Stadium using them to report on a Champions League game. Well, I didn't use them to report on the game. I used my radio set, but they're with me for the post-match pod, which is incredible. So yeah, farewell to the headphones. Farewell to you guys as well. Like, subscribe. You know the drill by now. And if you've got questions that I didn't get to answer, then please do pop them in the comments section once the stream is over. And then I'll be able to pick those up tomorrow and we can add them into the podcast that we do then. So on Thursday's edition of the Chronicles of Aguna. Guys, thank you so much. Great night here at Emirates Stadium. I'll just pan the camera around for you just for one final glimpse before we go. Look at that. The rain seems to have slowed down a little bit. It's still chucking it down, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was 5-10 minutes ago. So hopefully I can get to somewhere where I can get an Uber from without getting too drenched. I'll see you all tomorrow. Until then, take care, guys. All the best. Goodbye.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry